1991. As many of you know, this is the first official event to be held in the new Legion since it was rebuilt after the 2016 fire. With that in mind, I'd like to have us all give a big round of applause to the men and women who worked so hard to make this possible today, and especially Commander Anderson, who turned this $2.1 million renovation from a vision into a reality. We're going to begin this morning's program with a presentation of the colors followed by the National Anthem and the Pledge of Allegiance. So I'd like to ask Girl Scout Troop 810 to please come forward and assemble at the front of the room. And we'd also like to invite the Waugh Chapel United Methodist Church Choir to come forward and assemble at the front of the room. And please rise for the presentation of the colors by the Dorchester County Sheriff's Honor Guard and the Cambridge Police Department Honor Guard.
Left face. Go. Breathe it on.
Please remain standing for the national anthem, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, and please be seated. On behalf of the entire Hogan administration, thank you again for joining us today. We have a great day ahead of us and a very packed agenda for everyone. All of our cabinet secretaries will be around following the meeting, so we ask that you hold any questions until the end. Governor Hogan has certainly assembled an amazing team to be on the Midshore today. So with that, I'd like to ask all of the cabinet secretaries and the directors of the governor's coordinating offices to please stand and be acknowledged. I would also like to ask all of the members of the Midshore delegation, our senators and delegates that are here to stand, and also our local elected officials to stand and be recognized. Thank you all for working with us and for being our partner and for all that you do on behalf of the communities that you represent. Now, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is my great honor and privilege to introduce a gentleman who has done more for the Midshore and the state of Maryland than anyone I can think of, and has probably been to the Midshore more than any governor I ever remember, our governor of the great state of Maryland, Governor Larry Hogan.
Good morning. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you, please. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you all. Wow, what a nice warm welcome this morning on the Midshore. I think everybody drank their coffee. You're fired up. Thank you all so much for joining us this morning. I want to, first of all, thank again the Northeastern Storm Shooting Stars cheerleaders, the Dorchester County Sheriff's Office, and the Cambridge Police Department, both of their color guards, the Wall United Methodist Church Choir, and Girl Scout Troop 810 of Cambridge. Let's give them all another big round of applause. And I especially want to thank Commander Tommy Anderson and all of the folks at the American Legion Dorchester Post 91 for hosting us for today's special regional cabinet meeting. We are really honored that this is the very first public event to be held here. And in fact, right after the conclusion of this meeting, I think we'll be officially cutting the ribbon on Post 91. I also want to recognize and thank Cambridge Mayor Victoria Jackson Stanley and wish her well in her upcoming retirement. She's been a great partner. I couldn't found her back here. Stand up there, Mayor. She has been working hard on an initiative called Reflections on Pine Street to preserve the history of Cambridge and to promote unity and collaboration. I just want to personally thank her for her leadership and all of her outstanding services, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. I also want to thank all of our legislators who do such a great job representing you in Annapolis, and all of your local government, elected officials, and all the other distinguished guests who have joined us. And I want to thank all of you for coming out here this morning. It's great to be back on the Eastern Shore and great to be back in Dorchester County. We were just here Saturday for the Crab Cook-Off and the Fun Street Festival, which was tremendous, by the way. Incredible crowd here. We also spent a little time at the Talbot County Fair, and we're just happy to spend as much time on the shore as we possibly can. We try to get out of Annapolis every chance we get. But last year, I had the honor of helping celebrate the grand opening of the Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad, the State and National Park and Visitor Center, which is giving visitors the chance to learn about and to honor one of our truly incredible Maryland heroes. We're proud to be working with the Dorchester County Council on the Harriet Tubman Rural Legacy Area designation, and I want to sincerely thank them for their unanimous support of this project. We're really excited to be here for today's regional cabinet meeting with our entire team back here. 4 years ago, when I was running for office, I said that the Eastern Shore would no longer be ignored, forgotten, and neglected. And the day that I was sworn in as governor, as I was taking the oath, I said that the war on rural Maryland was over. And I meant what I said. And we've been doing exactly what we said we were going to do. We have made it a top priority to make sure that the people here on the shore know that they have a voice in Annapolis, a seat at the table, and a governor and an administration who are working and fighting on your behalf each and every day. Today, we're literally bringing the entire leadership of state government right here directly to you. We've assembled an incredible bipartisan cabinet and senior leadership team in our administration. Every single one of them is a dedicated public servant that's working very hard for you. But there are a couple of locals that I want to point out who are on our team. Give them a shout out since we can't introduce everybody, but you already heard from my great Deputy Chief of Staff, Jeannie Hadaway-Riccio, who's from Talbot County and represented you so well in the legislature. Let's give her another round of applause. I don't know where Jeannie went. And we got a few other locals here on our team, too. Our State Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Karen Salmon, is from right here in Talbot County. As is Clay Stamp, the Executive Director of the Opioid Operational Command Center. He's also a Talbot County guy in the back of the room. And a couple of other shore representatives. Our Ag Secretary, Joe Barton Felder, has a beautiful farm in Caroline County. And our Director of Homeland Security, Pete Landon, lives in Kent County. Pete? But the entire team, not just those folks from the shore, but every one of us, is really excited about having a long, full, and productive day throughout the Mid-Shore. We'll be meeting with local community groups and leaders, retirees, small businesses, small business owners, with our local elected officials and residents all throughout the Mid-Shore. When I stood on the steps of our historic State House in Annapolis to take the oath of office, I pledged to put Maryland on a new path, to clean up the mess in Annapolis, and to bring fiscal responsibility and common sense to our state capital. And now I know this doesn't usually happen in politics, but we're actually doing exactly what we said we were going to do. We cut taxes, tolls, and fees 4 years in a row by $1.2 billion. And we put all that money back into the pockets of hardworking Marylanders, retirees, and small businesses, and back into our growing economy. As a result, we had the best year for business in Maryland in more than a decade, the best year for job growth in 15 years. We went from losing 100,000 jobs to gaining 100,000 jobs. More businesses have been open and more people are working than at any other time in Maryland history. Just before I became governor, sadly, our overall economic performance in Maryland, we ranked 49th out of 50 states. It was one of the things that made me sad enough and angry enough to decide to run for governor to try to fix that. Now, a recent national ranking has Maryland in the top 10 in the United States of America. In 2014, more than two-thirds of all the people in Maryland thought that our state was way off track and heading in the wrong direction. We were losing businesses, jobs, and taxpayers at an alarming rate. And I'm so pleased to report to you this morning that now 76% of all of the people in Maryland, after all the progress that we've done together, 76% approve of the job we're doing and believe we're heading in the right direction. That's quite a turnaround. Encouraging jobs and economic development here on the shore is a top priority of ours, and I just want to mention a few of the recent success stories. We added 50 new jobs here in Cambridge with the expansion of both Ujeed USA Inc. and Cambridge Federal. In Talbot County, we added 100 new jobs with the expansion at Talbot Commerce Park. In Caroline County, we added 126 jobs at Crystal Steel, a company that I called personally to try to get them to move into Maryland. 100 new jobs at Chop Tank Transport, and that's just to name a few. We recently expanded the reach of our legislation, our More Jobs for Marylanders Act, to incentivize and encourage more manufacturers and other businesses to create more jobs where we need them the most, including right here on the shore. We just received federal approval for 6 new federal opportunity zones in Dorchester, Caroline, and Talbot County, and a total of 24 opportunity zones throughout the Eastern Shore to attract even further investment and to energize economic development. Education has been a top priority of ours from day one. We've invested a record and historic $25 billion in K-12 education. That's more than the legislative formulas called for, and it's more than any other governor in Maryland history. And in addition to that, this November, get out there and vote, because we have a proposition on the ballot, our idea to create a lockbox to ensure that 100% of the casino revenue that we receive goes directly into the classrooms, as it was promised to do. And that will mean an additional $4.4 billion for our schools. But I'm also leading the fight for more accountability in our local school systems by raising academic standards, by rooting out corruption and mismanagement, because I believe that every single child in Maryland should have the opportunity and access to a world-class education, regardless of what neighborhood they happen to grow up in. We're pushing to add school resource officers and mental health counselors to make our schools safer, because no mom and dad should ever have to worry when they send their kids off to school in the morning whether their son or daughter is going to make it home safely. Just yesterday, we announced new innovative initiatives to provide much-needed relief from student debt and to make college more affordable. On the first day of the next legislative session in January, we will introduce the Student Debt Relief Act of 2019 as emergency legislation to make 100% of student loan interest deductible from your state taxes. And we won't stop fighting until that passes. We had already launched the Promise Scholarship Program, which will now allow just about anyone who can qualify to get into have their community college paid for, free community college. And it's going to open up the opportunities for a lot of people all across the state that didn't have that. Yesterday, we signed an executive order. We made a proposal that for certain people that qualify and make it through to get their A degree at a community college, if they maintain the proper grade average and they meet the financial requirements, they also will get 2 years of college at one of our an additional 2 years of college at one of our 4-year institutions. And I signed an executive order yesterday to establish the Maryland State Employee Loan Benefit Program, which will begin offering state employees who are working in a specified shortage area where we have trouble recruiting and maintaining, including nurses and correctional officers here on the shore, the opportunity to have up to $20,000 of their student loans repaid. And this benefit will apply to current and future state employees who are paying off their own student loans or who are paying down their children's student loans. We're moving forward on nearly all of the highest priority transportation infrastructure projects here on the Eastern Shore, some of whom have been waiting for decades to get moving along, but we're moving forward on every single top priority project in every single jurisdiction all across the state, from one corner of the state to the other. Last month, we completed a critical $65 million project as we officially opened the new Dover Bridge over the Chop Tank River, something that people have been asking for decades. Just here on the Eastern Shore, we have invested $746 million in transportation projects, including $158 million to upgrade Maryland Route 404 to 4 lanes. Anybody knows 404 is a little easier to drive on? We've already repaved 8,500 lane miles, more than half of the entire state highway system, and I noticed really nice paving on the way down here today, by the way, on Route 50. We inherited 69 structurally deficient bridges, and now we've either repaired, replaced, or have under construction and moving forward every single one of them. We're proud that our latest budget includes $33.5 million for mid-shore counties for critical school construction projects, waterway improvements, wastewater treatment, plant upgrades, and more, including the Waterfront 2020 project here in Cambridge. And we look forward to continuing to work with you on that. A couple of people like it. I'm really proud to be the first governor in Maryland history to ever fund the Rural Maryland Prosperity Investment Fund. And we are fully funding the Tri-County Councils, which are great partners in advancing our rural Maryland goals. We also created an Office of Rural Broadband to provide access to high-speed internet to every single community in Maryland, including right here on the Eastern Shore. We've been making incredible progress, but there's still much more work to be done. So today, our entire state government leadership team will be spreading out all across Dorchester, Caroline, and Talbot counties. Earlier today, I had the chance to visit the Benedictine School in Ridgely, which was an incredible place doing wonderful work, helping children and adults with disabilities. And right after we wrap up this meeting, I'll be participating in the dedication ceremony for the YMCA of the Chesapeake and touring businesses in downtown Cambridge, and then visiting A.E. Phillips and Son. Our team collectively has over 100 meetings and visits all across the Midshore just today. Lieutenant Governor Rutherford will be joined by Ag Secretary Joe Barton Felder on a tour of Chop Tank Transport Corporate Headquarters. The Lieutenant Governor, along with Disability Secretary Carol Beatty, will be visiting the Benedictine Employment and Community Services Center in Easton. He'll be joined by Labor Secretary Kelly Schultz to sign a memorandum of understanding with Dorchester County Public Schools. Deputy Budget Secretary Mark Nicole will be touring the Chesapeake Grove Senior Housing and Intergenerational Center at Delmarva Community Services, and he will visit the Chop Tank Marina to discuss planned waterway improvement projects. Commerce Secretary Mike Gill will be visiting the J.M. Clayton Company, and Environment Secretary Ben Grumbles will be touring Blackwater Wildlife Refuge. And these are just a handful of the more than 100 meetings and visits that our administration will be holding today. I just want you all to know that everyone on our entire team is committed to working together with your legislators and your local elected officials and your community leaders to help address the problems and to seize upon the opportunities that we have here on the Midshore. Working together with all of you, we will continue to change Maryland for the better. So I want to thank you all for joining us this morning. It's going to be a great, great day on the Midshore. Thank you for being part of it.
Governor, thank you again for your tremendous leadership. As a local resident, I've seen firsthand the positive efforts that this administration has made to change the Midshore region in Maryland for the better. As one of his first acts in office, Governor Hogan tasked the Lieutenant Governor with leading the Heroin and Opioid Emergency Task Force. The task force has advised and assisted the Governor and the Lieutenant Governor in establishing a coordinated, statewide, and multi-jurisdictional effort to prevent, treat, and significantly reduce heroin and opioid abuse in the state. Related to this, the Lieutenant Governor has been working tirelessly as the driving force behind the two-generation effort. Established through an executive order, the two-generation program is an interagency, multidisciplinary commission to find ways to break the cycle of multi-generational poverty. At this time, I'd like to invite two other friends of the Midshore, the Lieutenant Governor and Clay Stamp, the Executive Director of the Opioid Operational Command Center. Both will brief you on the Hogan administration's ongoing efforts to combat these issues. It is now my privilege to introduce Maryland's Lieutenant Governor, Boyd Rutherford.
Thank you. Well, thanks to Jeannie, and good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
As Jeannie mentioned, Governor Hogan charged me with spearheading the administration's efforts to combat the heroin and opioid crisis that we have in the state. But before providing an update on those efforts, and particularly those efforts here on the shore, I want to first talk about a correlated initiative. Jeannie just mentioned the two-generational program, and to discuss our vision of the two-gen, as we call, approach in Maryland. Two-gen is built around the premise that we, and I think everyone would agree, that every parent wants their child to have a better life than they did. We all want and hope that our children will not have to endure some of the same struggles and challenges that we may have faced. However, too many families in Maryland, those aspirations do not become a reality. Too often, what we see as a safety net has become a situation where it has to be a day-to-day avenue, or at least a day-to-day existence. So we must not allow poverty to continue to be a legacy handed down generation to generation and accept that as the status quo. And that's where the two-gen approach comes in. In order to break this cycle, last year, Governor Hogan signed an executive order establishing an interagency multidisciplinary commission to study the two-gen approach and how it can be applied here in Maryland. And we're seeking to provide a holistic approach to addressing the needs of vulnerable children and their parents together as one unit. As many of you may know, or at least imagine, often in government, everything is in silos. Programs are specific to particular people, or they're to the children, or they're to the adults, or they're to this group and that group, and there's not a lot of connection between them. And so our approach is to try to work through those silos to provide a holistic solution for the entire family, and not just individuals, in particular individuals, and all the challenges that those families have. Now, I'm pleased to report that the two-gen approach is currently in action here on the Eastern Shore. Our two-gen pilot, one of which is at the Delmarva Community Services Program here in Cambridge, and it's centered around creating a path towards self-sufficiency for Maryland families. Two-gen interventions provided through Delmarva's Preparing Adults for Life program focuses on education, economic stability, high-quality child care, health and well-being, family engagement, and workforce development. Dorchester County's ongoing pilot will be critical in helping us to drive legislation and policy and regulatory recommendations. And that will assist in the expansion of the two-generation approach statewide. Finding innovative solutions to break that cycle of multi-generational poverty will have a transformative effect on our entire state. It is also critically important, as mentioned before, that we tackle the heroin and opioid crisis, which continues to ruin lives and tear apart families statewide. And for an update on our all-hands-on-deck approach to addressing this challenge, I'd now like to turn it over to the Executive Director of the Governor's Opioid Operational Command Center, Clay Stamp.
Good morning. It's good to be on the Eastern Shore.
It'll be home for you.
It is very near home. Governor, thank you. Lieutenant Governor, thank you. Matt Clark, thank you. Fellow members of the Cabinet, thank you for your support. You know, this, as you all know, I'm a long-serving emergency manager in Maryland. And the crisis we're facing is a crisis probably bigger than any one that I've ever faced. You know, it's not a hurricane that comes in and destroys property and then we clean up. This is a crisis that's affecting people every day all over the state. The governor and lieutenant governor recognized that in day one. In doing so, they recognize the importance of embracing the emergency management community, which has a unique set of skills to deliver a coordinated effort during crisis events. So that's why I got involved. So what is the state of the crisis right now? There's good news and bad news. The good news is, because of efforts taken through the prescription drug monitoring program and other efforts, the number of prescriptions for opioids are decreasing. The number of prescriptions being written by doctors are more strictly prescribed. Number two, deaths related to prescribed opioids are falling as well. That's the good news. And if it were for nothing else, we would be winning the battle. The bad news is that on the shoe heels of this success, illicit fentanyl, which is a synthetic opioid, is now flooding our streets as poison. And it's being mixed with all kinds of illicit drugs, and it's killing people at an alarming rate. So this is calling for a ratcheting up of our effort, a three-pronged approach through prevention, through enforcement, and through expanding access to treatment and recovery services. I'm proud to say that we have a team assembled across this state that's not just with the state system, but with local jurisdictions. And right here in these four counties, there's incredible work being done. It's going to take that incredible work to overcome stigma, the stigma around this issue of becoming addicted. The good news is in Talbot County, for example, Project Purple, a prevention and education project that reached into our school system and our business community, supported by our community, has expanded. And now in 9 other counties across Maryland, they're going to engage in the Project Purple effort. Yes, sir. He's been behind me doing okay. Oh, good, good. I'm happy to report that in Caroline County, they're leading the effort in a pilot right now to train a canine, a dog, to be able to sniff out illicit fentanyl, to detect it on the streets. This is a pilot program that could potentially help us try to remove this poison from the street. In Dorchester County, there's great work being done with Dry Docks, a recovery support center, with a 24-hour on-call service for peer recovery coaches. Our hospitals regionally in this area are engaging in standard discharge protocols to make sure that patients, when discharged, are discharged with instruction, a warm handoff to treatment, life-saving naloxone, and in some cases, their first treatment for substance use disorder. So there's a lot of good work being done. We just have to be resolute and continue to fight the fight, because this is a fight worth fighting for. So again, thank you very much, Lieutenant Governor. Governor, thank you very much.
Thank you again, Lieutenant Governor and Clay, for taking on this very critical issue. I would now like to turn the program over to Steve McAdams, the Executive Director of the Governor's Office of Community Initiatives. He will be presenting governor's citations to local residents who have demonstrated an amazing commitment to service that makes the Midshore and the entire state of Maryland very proud. Steve?
Thank you, Jeannie. Thank you, Jeannie. Good morning, everyone. As Jeannie said, I am Steve McAdams, and I'm honored to be here today to present governor citations to exemplary members of the community. When your name is called, please come forward and join the Lieutenant Governor and Governor as we present you and honor you. Our first recipient today is Amanda Feinstermaker. Amanda has been the Director of Tourism for Dorchester County for several years and is also the co-chair of the Maryland Coalition of Heritage Areas. She has been instrumental in the success of the Heart of the Chesapeake Country Heritage Area. Maryland's heritage areas support the economic well-being of Maryland communities by preserving and celebrating the state's history, cultural traditions, and natural resources through partnerships that promote, support, and create place-based experiences for visitors and residents alike. Thank you, Amanda. Our second recipient is Santo Grande. Santo has been the president and CEO of Delmarva Community Services for 41 years. During that time, he has increased services to the Midshore's most vulnerable populations, including children, people with disabilities, and older adults. He has done this by offering a wide range of programs to build on an individual's talents and to help them develop new skills. The evolution of Delmarva's Community Services from a small organization to one of the most respected nonprofit agencies in the entire state is evidence of Mr. Grande's passion for service. People's lives have been changed for the better thanks to Delmarva Community Services and Santo Grande. Thank you. Our next recipient is Brian R. Gorley. Brian is Executive Director of His Hope Haven, which provides services to homeless individuals and families not only from Caroline County, but across the Eastern Shore. Since its inception in 2010, His Hope Haven has provided cold weather shelter to those experiencing homelessness in the coldest months of the year. Through Brian's tireless work and advocacy, His Hope Haven has increased its capacity and currently has 50 beds available to individuals and families. They provide comprehensive services to those placed in their shelter and work diligently to ensure that permanent housing is secured for those leaving their shelter. Thank you, Brian. Ray Washington, Jr. Ray is the band director for the Marching Lions of Maple Elementary School. You might have seen them on local TV, Good Morning America, and the Ravens halftime game this past December. Ray, an alumni of Maple Elementary School and a music major at Morgan State University, started the marching band back in 2015. Since then, they have grown to become an extremely talented group of individuals, as well as the only primary school marching band in the state. Thank you for your work, Ray. Ken Wood. Ken Wood. Ken is the president of Lifetime Well Drilling. 12 years ago, Ken sold a used water drilling rig to a mission group traveling to Africa to dig wells to supply water to local villages. Ken ended up joining the mission group and felt a huge sense of fulfillment. As of 2006, Ken has assisted in the drilling of over 1,500 wells in Ghana and Tanzania and travels to Africa 4 times a year to personally assist with the projects. He is the epitome of selfless. Thank you for your hard work and dedication to those in need. Congratulations to all of our recipients, and I'd now like to welcome Jeannie back to the podium.
Thank you again, Steve. Now I would like to ask you to please join me in welcoming Secretary Joe Barton Felder of the Department of Agriculture, who will give a presentation on agriculture and seafood marketing and how farmers are working to protect the environment on the Midshore. Secretary Barton Felder.
Good morning, everyone. I am Joe Barton Felder, Maryland Secretary of Agriculture. Our department is responsible for safeguarding and promoting Maryland's #1 industry, agriculture. I'm happy to be here with you this morning on the shore, which remains the heart of our state's agriculture and seafood industries. In the most recent census of agriculture, Caroline, Dorchester, and Talbot counties combined for $534.4 million in total value of agriculture products sold. That's nearly a quarter of the statewide total of $2.3 billion. One of the most direct ways our department supports the industry is through the marketing of Maryland-grown products. This is mostly done through our Maryland's Best programs and includes promotional billboards, print and radio advertisements, and development of new markets through the region and internationally. Later this week, we will join Governor Hogan for the 11th annual Buy Local Cookout, which is the official kickoff event for the Buy Local Challenge Week, which asks all Marylanders include at least one Maryland-grown or produced ingredient in each of their meals. As of last year, our department is responsible for seafood marketing. As many of you know, our watermen and seafood processors are facing incredible hardships due to a lack of H-2B visas. This has had a far-reaching implication. Many crab houses have had to close their doors, watermen have fewer customers to sell crabs to, and several small businesses that depend on a thriving seafood industry have lost a significant chunk of their customer base. While we continue to work with the federal government on a resolution, we're exploring every option at the state level to provide some relief for those affected. The Board of Public Works recently approved an initiative that will grant $375,000 from the contingency fund to be used on a new seafood marketing campaign. The campaign will aim to boost sales of Maryland blue crab meat by telling the story of Maryland's iconic seafood industry, from the watermen catching the crabs to the pickers and processors that deliver delicious crab meat to our restaurants and our retail grocery chains. On an international level, our marketing staff has done a tremendous job showcasing our farmers, producers, and watermen to buyers in several countries. We recently hosted multiple trade missions from Canada that have resulted in significant sales of watermelon, seafood, and local beer, wine, and spirits. Since we're right here on the Chop Tank, I'd also like to talk about the many ways our farmers are helping to protect our waterways and clean up the Chesapeake Bay watershed. Just last month, the Chesapeake Bay Foundation released its annual report card showing continued improvement in bay health. This year's report also noted signs that our restoration efforts are beginning to take hold. Maryland farmers have been a major part of those efforts. When I travel to other regions and speak to my colleagues from other states, I'm always proud to hear that Maryland is held up as the model for sustainable agriculture practices in environmentally critical areas. When Governor Hogan took office, one of the first things he did was bring together stakeholders from the agriculture community and environmental groups to implement the phosphorus management tool. Maryland's agriculture sector is the largest contributor of non-point source nutrient reductions to the Chesapeake Bay, and Maryland's farmers have some of the highest participation rates in conservation practices in the nation. 71% of the state's cropland acres were farmed under soil conservation and water quality plans as of FY 2017. This includes 827,000 acres in compliance with Maryland's stringent nutrient management regulations, 559,000 acres of winter cover crops are planted. The Healthy Soil Act makes Maryland one of the first states in the nation to adopt legislation aimed at improving soil health, which is beneficial to our farmers and to the environment. Healthy soil is important to farmers' yields and overall profitability. It also plays an important role in water quality and the sequestration of carbon and mitigation of other greenhouse gases. Looking more locally, we've had an unusually wet start to the growing season, which has led to widespread crop losses, especially here on the shore. Governor Hogan recently signed a letter to USDA Secretary Sonny Perdue requesting federal emergency relief for farmers who lost their crops due to the excessive rains. We're hopeful that Secretary Perdue will grant that designation and allow our farmers to recoup some of the value they've already lost. Thank you all for joining us here this morning, and believe me, we're always happy to spend the day here on the Eastern Shore. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Barton Felder, and thank you to our watermen and farmers in Maryland. Now I would like to introduce Major General Singh of the Maryland Army National Guard. Major General Singh will be presenting governor's citations to members of the public safety community who demonstrate a commitment to public safety and who go above and beyond the call of duty.
Morning. Thank you, Jeannie. As Jeannie mentioned, I'm Major General Singh, and just in case you're wondering, my brand new armory going right down the street. I love that. Like to have more money. I am thrilled to be able to present these citations to the men and women who have gone above and beyond the call of duty to protect others. When your name is called, please come forward to the front so that you can be recognized. Maryland Criminal Intelligence Network, Dorchester County Narcotics Task Force. Please come forward. I think there are several. In March 2018, the Dorchester County Narcotics Task Force and the Eastern Shore Law Enforcement Agencies netted 3 arrests and the seizure of more than $100,000 worth of drugs in Dorchester and Talbot counties following a 3-year multi-county drug investigation. In the spirit of the governor's new initiative, the Maryland Criminal Intelligence Network, this investigation is an excellent example of collaboration and partnership working towards disrupting and dismantling criminal organizations and networks that pose a threat to our communities. This comprehensive approach has resulted in an overall crime reduction in Dorchester County and has taken violent offenders, guns, and drugs off the street. Thank you for your service to your community. Corporal Joey Thames, Corporal Jared Royer, and Deputy First Class Dominique Rossetti. In June 2017, Corporal Joey Thames stopped a vehicle for a traffic violation. Corporal Thames, a canine handler, conducted a scan on the vehicle which produced a positive alert. Located in the vehicle were 22 paper folds of heroin. This case began a more in-depth investigation of the individual. Soon after, the individual was stopped for another traffic violation, and investigators found 141 wax folds of heroin in the vehicle. Because of this significant amount of heroin seized, this investigation disrupted the trafficking of drugs in the area. These 3 Talbot deputies are responsible for hindering drug trafficking and making the county safer. So thank you all, and congratulations to all of our deserving citation recipients. And I'd like to welcome Jeannie back. So, thank you.
Thank you, Major General. Next, I would like to introduce Secretary George Owings from the Maryland Department of Veterans Affairs, who will be leading a panel on the new problem-solving court for veterans here in Dorchester County.
Thank you very much, Jeannie. Thank you very much, Governor, Lieutenant Governor. It's great to be with you. Yes, it's me. Well, very quickly, there's a reason. I've served with or under 5 governors, and I've not found one yet that impressed me enough to want to look like him, be like him when I grew up. So if I want to be like Governor Hogan when I grow up, I got to look like him growing up. To which he reminded me, I may look a little like him in the head, but I'll never grow up. I have the high honor today of introducing a couple of very special people. But before I do that, Post 91 is more important to the Department of Veterans Affairs than most in this room, except for the members know. And there's a reason that they're very important to us. Today I had the director from Charlotte Hall Veterans Home, Sharon Murphy, drive the van that they donated to us that we transport our residents to and from different appointments to. That van came to us in 2015. But more than that, Post 91 in 2014 gave us $5,000. In 2015, the van. In 2015, an additional $10,000. In 2016, $8,000. And in 2017, so far, $4,000. Commander, if you and the members of Post 91 would please stand up and be recognized. The SAL, the Legion. That is a true commitment to the veterans of this state by this one post. So can you imagine how much we rely on all of our posts and all of our veteran service organizations. I want to thank every one of them publicly for all they do all year long. Now, Governor Hogan demonstrates consistently his commitment to the veteran community. And with what I've seen over the past 4 years, I can only imagine what his next 4 years are going to bring for the veterans of this state. That's a clap, folks. That's the next 4 years. Four more. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's exciting. I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning looking at the clock wondering, do I really have to wait 4 more hours to go to work? Some of you come to work looking at the clock wondering when the hell you can go home. I know that. Anyway, today I have a high honor of introducing 2 individuals who are very important to some veterans of our community, those who call Maryland home. Today you're going to hear from Judge Melvin Jews from the District Court of Dorchester County right here, and also Judge Haley Weinstein from the District Court of Baltimore City. Judge Weinstein is also a veteran of our armed forces. Judge, thank you for those services that you offered. Judge Jews and Judge Weinstein will talk about the problem-solving courts of veterans, and the problem-solving courts of veterans assist those who have committed some crimes that don't rise to the level of, let's say, felonies, but who have committed some crimes nonetheless as a result of substance abuse that the Lieutenant Governor spoke to earlier, and through mental illness. Through the program, the veterans are able to resolve outstanding criminal offenses and obtain the treatment and services they need. Please, if you would, welcome up here Judge Jews and Judge Weinstein. Ladies and gentlemen.
Secretary Owings and I have had the opportunity over the last few years to be at the same events and speak at the same events sometimes, and it's always interesting. Governor, Lieutenant Governor, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Judge Haley Weinstein from Baltimore City. So I feel like I have to confess, I really have no connection to Cambridge or the Eastern Shore, or I learned today calling it the Middle Shore, except one, and that was about 10 years ago. I swam what was supposed to be 1.2 miles in the Chop Tank River. I'm sure because I'm such a poor swimmer and I couldn't swim straight, I swam half Ironman triathlon here. So I have been here before. I just, that's the only way I'm associated with your wonderful county. But I was asked to come here, and Judge Jews and I were asked to come here to talk to you about veterans treatment courts. And I was included because I created the Baltimore City Veterans Treatment Court about almost 3 years ago in Baltimore City, and Judge Jews is just getting started. So I have a little bit more information about the success of our program. Before I start, I would ask that all veterans please stand to be recognized. All veterans and active duty. So So what we do, what Judge Jews and I do, we do for you and your fellow veterans. We are honored to be here with all of you this morning to celebrate the rededication of this beautifully rebuilt American Legion post-91 building. For over 15 years, the Office of Problem-Solving Courts in Maryland has been a leader in the justice reform effort at the state and local levels. Today, Maryland has 52 operational problem-solving courts, with 5 more being planned. And before he has to leave, I'd like to recognize Gray Barton. Stand up, Gray. Gray is the director of the Office of Problem-Solving Courts for the state of Maryland. And I have no doubt in my mind that he has saved many lives due to his work across the state. So thank you, Gray. So why are problem-solving courts important? Because they hold people accountable for their criminal behavior, and at the same time they save lives, and they allow people to become productive members of their communities. It is especially critical now with the opioid crisis, and as has already been mentioned, the influx of fentanyl and also a drug called carfentanil. So fentanyl is 50 times more potent than heroin, carfentanil 100 times more potent. Those drugs kill people instantly. Just in Baltimore City last year, in the first 9 months, over 500 people died of fentanyl or carfentanil-related overdoses. It is an emergency. Why are veterans treatment courts important? Well, veterans, we know problem-solving courts work. And veterans treatment courts are modeled after drug treatment courts. The first one was founded in 2008 in Buffalo, New York by Judge Robert Russell. Veterans have unique experiences that other people don't have. It is difficult when someone transfers from active duty service back to the civilian community. As all the people from the American Legion and all the veterans can tell you, we speak a different language. We are used to serving a mission greater than ourselves. We're used to discipline, and then when you transfer back to civilian life, it can be a very difficult transition. It's especially difficult for our veterans who have physical and psychological injuries due to combat deployments, and in the last 15 years due to multiple combat deployments. Sometimes they get involved in the criminal justice system. So these veterans treatment courts were created to assist justice-involved veterans, and it's a courtroom where we just have veterans. Veterans treatment courts are court-supervised, comprehensive, and voluntary treatment-based programs. Baltimore City launched about 3 years ago thanks to the leadership and support of our chief judges, Chief Judge John Morrissey and Chief Judge Mary Ellen Barbera. In recognition of the toll on veterans that accompanies military service, the mission of the Baltimore City Veterans Treatment Courts and all veterans treatment courts is to serve the community and increase public safety by integrating and incorporating a coordinated treatment response for justice-involved veterans who have substance abuse, mental health issues, housing, and employment issues. It is an extraordinary collaboration. I've been a judge now for almost 16 years. I know I don't look that old. But for a long time, this is the most rewarding thing I have done in the criminal justice system. We have an extraordinary team made up of justice partners, federal partners, state partners, and local partners. Just to give you some idea, the state's attorney's office is involved, the Office of the Public Defender, the VA, the federal VA, parole and probation, pretrial services, and I'm going to talk about state partnerships in a little bit, but let me just give a shout out to Secretary Moyer, His department has been a critical part of our program since before we launched, so I wanted to tell him thank you. Our local partners are the State's Attorney's Office, the United Way of Central Maryland. Back on my feet, I don't know if anybody has heard of that, but they are a running organization that helps people who are homeless or have substance abuse issues become a productive member of community again through running. And the studies have shown that running and exercise help veterans who have PTSD and traumatic brain injury and military sexual trauma. So we included them in our program. Baltimore City Community College, the Baltimore Station, Healthcare for the Homeless, the Bob Parsons Veterans Advocacy Clinic at the University of Baltimore, Homeless Persons Representation Project, McVet, Project Place, the 6th branch. Our veterans have to do community service. They have to give back to the community because they do damage to the community if they are using drugs. So they give back. The 6th branch is a community service organization in East Baltimore that was founded and run by veterans. Sharp Dressed Man, they agree to provide a suit, a haircut for those who need it, shoes and a meal to all of our graduates. And we recently partnership with Warrior Canine Connection. They bring service dogs that they are training into the courtroom every week. Our veterans help train service dogs for wounded warriors. The VA provides a Veterans Justice Outreach Specialist and a representative from the Veterans Benefit Administration. The VJO sits next to me on the bench. She has her computer. She can look up to see whether my veteran has gone to the treatment that he or she was supposed to. She can find beds at Perry Point or Martinsburg for our veterans who need residential treatment. The American Red Cross, when they found out about our program, they volunteered. They provide volunteer caseworkers for us. Our state partners, again, I already talked about Secretary Moyer. They did a software change so we can identify veterans at the time of booking. So I see in Baltimore City every veteran who's charged with a misdemeanor offense within 2 weeks of their arrest. DLLR provides their veterans disability person. She comes to the courtroom and she helps veterans with job training and job placement. So everybody always asks me about numbers, and I'm going to conclude with this. These are our statistics. In October of this year, we will have been in operation 3 years. We have screened over 300 individuals for the Veterans Treatment Court to determine whether they're eligible and whether they want to participate. 86 participants have entered the program. Currently, we have 30 active participants, 46 successful graduates. We've had 4 unsuccessful completions. Not a single graduate, not one graduate, and I'm always afraid to say this because I never know what will happen next week, but not a single graduate has been convicted of another crime since graduation. And only 2 graduates have been rearrested. Both of their cases were dismissed. So that is my part of the presentation. Judge Jews is going to talk to you next about his visionary approach and what he's done here for veterans. Thank you very much.
Governor, Lieutenant Governor, thank you for coming to the shore, and to your cabinet, to the other elected officials here. I'm going to be real brief. The difference between Judge Weinstein's court and mine is that it's regional. We're going to be focusing on 4 counties: Dorchester, Wycomico, Somerset, and Worcester. And the other difference is that we have a 40-foot van, so we're going to the veterans. For many of you who didn't know, and I'm going to share it with you, that some of the troubled veterans saw you this morning. they're living under the bridge. I have to help those folks. They've served this country. It's real simple for me. We have an obligation to these men and women. Their families have sacrificed as well as they have. So we have to reach out. So I'm going to the veterans to provide them with services. That's the difference. Law enforcement, I'm the only judge in my courthouse. Law enforcement in my court, we see these troubled veterans. They don't deserve to be behind bars after what they've done for this country. It's that simple. Now, if we were in church now, I would tell you all to say amen, but since we're not in church, just raise your hand if you're in agreement with me. Raise your hand. We have to help these folks. So we have the same partnerships that Judge Weinstein has. A lot of churches and people that heard about this program are willing to offer and help our veterans. They're hurting, folks. I see them coming into court high and on drugs and alcohol. Law enforcement are seeing these folks. And I see the wives and the husbands and the children there crying with them. That's the least I can do. That's the very least I can do, especially in light of the fact that my courthouse is in the old armory. Isn't that interesting? So we can serve these folks. We can take the extra time when we see a veteran to find out whether they need any services. You can make the referral to my court. I tell the correctional officers. I tell law enforcement. Everyone that comes into contact with a troubled veteran that has some legal problems is going to see me. And they need to know that there's a compassionate person that's going to hear their story and provide them with services. I'll put them together. And if they can't come to the courthouse, I go to them. I send the van with the social worker and treatment for that veteran. So let's get real about it. It's time for us to serve these men and women. We can do it. And I'm part of the effort, the statewide effort, to serve veterans that have got caught up in drugs and alcohol. The problem-solving courts is very involved in that. So I'd ask you that when you come into contact with the veteran that has that problem, let me know. I know it says 4 counties, but I'll go to Talbot County, Caroline County, to help a veteran. That's the least we can do. So spread the word about my program, all right? Thank you very much.
Thank you again to our panelists for bringing this special program and that innovative approach to Maryland and to the Eastern Shore. Every day, the governor and the lieutenant governor remind us how important customer service is and the fact that we don't just work for them, we work for you. So with that theme in mind, in the next part of our program, we will be presenting governor citations to state employees who have demonstrated consistent and outstanding customer service to citizens of the Midshore in Maryland. So I'd like to invite and introduce Greg Durward, the Managing Director of the Administration and Customer Experience at the Maryland Department of Commerce, to lead the presentations. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Jeannie. Good morning, everyone. Folks, you can come on up. I'm Greg Durward, and I'm pleased to be here with the governor to present these citations to the hardworking employees of the great state of Maryland, our customers. You know, customer service is extremely important to the Hogan-Rutherford administration. In June of 2016, the governor launched the Customer Service Initiative, a continuous program designed to foster improvements in customer service across all state agencies to change Maryland for the better. And it should come as no surprise to you that the initiative is working. Survey results show that the vast majority of our customers are satisfied with the services being provided. So folks, when your name is called, please come up to the front to be recognized. And let's start with Cherlene Travers. Cherlene is a Department of Juvenile Services case management specialist and has been an employee of the state of Maryland for 23 years and with DJS since 2001. During that time, she's been a tireless advocate for the youth and families of Dorchester County. She has continuously gone above and beyond in providing excellent customer service, often working late or on weekends to meet with families to accommodate their schedules. It's not uncommon to see her assist youth with basic needs and supplies, especially while in out-of-home placements or during the holidays. She does this out of her own pocket without seeking recognition. Well, here is your recognition, Cherlene. Congratulations. Next up is Mike Henry. Where's Mike? There he is. Give him a hand, folks. Mr. Henry has been the airport manager for 15 years at the Easton Newnham Field Airport. He was instrumental in the success of securing a state grant as well as private donations for the construction of the Air Traffic Controller Tower and was instrumental in the success of securing Federal Aviation Administration funding for Air Traffic Control Tower staffing. He served as president of the Maryland Airport Managers Association and has mentored and trained many airport managers throughout Maryland. He is a strong advocate for airport and aviation issues and has provided expert testimony in many state legislative hearings to advance the interest and value of Maryland's regional airports. Mike exemplifies the highest professional ideals of airport management and is retiring in September after a lifetime of service. Thank you for all you've done. Last but not least is Kurt Butler. Where's Kurt? There's Kurt. Kurt is a native of Caroline County who began working at the Department of General Services as their fleet manager in 2015. Now, when Kurt was hired, the fleet manager position had been vacant for several months, and the department's fleet of vehicles was in need of a complete overhaul. Kurt has been involved in the acquisition of up to 21 vehicles, which has saved the state of Maryland over $167,000. His 30-plus years as a small business owner in Federalsburg brings years of experience in managing budgets and reducing costs. Kurt's customer service skills and professionalism are highly respected throughout the state of Maryland. Thank you for your hard work, Kurt. So I'd like to thank all of our citation recipients for providing a great customer experience to our customers, the citizens of Maryland. And Governor, I've been told that these award winners actually get up at 3:45 a.m. every morning. Yeah, so they wait for Secretary Owings to get up at 4. So. Jeannie, back to you.
Thank you again, Greg. This concludes the meeting portion of our Midshore Regional Cabinet meeting. And again, on behalf of the Hogan-Rutherford administration, we want to thank you for joining us. We look forward to spending more time with you this afternoon when we do our visits throughout the region. But first, I would like to welcome Bill Christopher, the President and CEO of the Dorchester Chamber of Commerce, for a special closing message. Welcome, Bill.
Good morning. Thanks everybody for coming out this morning. So I have the task of taking a 35-minute program and doing it in 8 minutes. So we're going to go through quickly to do a ribbon cuttings. We got to get a bunch of folks out and about. So I'm going to introduce a couple speakers. Some of you guys that were going to speak, I'm going to be cutting you out. I apologize for that. So I'll take the abuse for that later. Solely my decision, so no one else will take the blame for that. But it is an exciting occasion to be cutting the ribbon here and officially opening up the American Legion Post 91 after that devastating fire. And what it did to the group. We'll be bringing Tommy up in a minute to talk about that. But before I do that, I do want to bring Governor Hogan back up again to say a few words about the Legion being open again since we have him here, and I want to take advantage of that. So, Governor Hogan.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Look, I just spoke to the American Legion Convention in Ocean City last week, and it's really, I'm proud to be here, as I mentioned earlier, as the first event to be held here at Post 91. After the fire in 2016, this community really rallied together behind the Legion, and a lot of people to thank for making this day possible. But both the city and the county provided strong support, which included a temporary home where the Legion could continue to operate. And I just want to say that all the people of grateful state of Maryland owe a tremendous debt of gratitude to all the men and women who wore the flag of our nation on their arms. And often decades after they've hung up their fatigues, they're still serving, working hard to strengthen our communities, to build up the next generation of leaders, and to advocate for their fellow veterans. So now with their new home here, the members of Post 91, I think, are going to be stronger than ever and continue to serve the community and serve their fellow veterans. So I'd like to call Post Commander Tommy Anderson and the rest of the leadership team up here so I can present them with a governor's citation in honor of this occasion.
Thank you, Governor Hogan. That's great. And one of the things Governor Hogan talked about and he mentioned is the cooperation between the city and the county. So with this, I'd like to bring President of the County Council, Vicki Travers, up, and the Mayor of the city, Mayor Victoria Jackson Stanley, come up to the stage, please. Sir.
Good morning. In the interest of time, I won't give my 10-minute speech, but I want to thank everyone for coming. Governor Hogan, Lieutenant Governor, members of the Cabinet, thank you for blessing us with your presence today, because it is indeed a blessing to be here. Am I right about it? Yeah. But I also want to thank you all for coming and to thank the American Legion. In partnership, we knew a tragedy had come about. There were lemons that were placed on the American Legion, but together we work hard to turn those lemons into lemonade. And that's how we do it here in the city of Cambridge and Dorchester County. We work together, we work hard, and we have fun too. So relax, have fun. And for those in the back, hey, how y'all doing? Oh, and before I go, I see 4 city commissioners. City commissioners, raise your hand, please. Mr. Sidno, I see you. 5, they're all here. We work together. I'm proud to work with this team. And Governor, Lieutenant Governor, if your team works as hard as our team, we've got a great state. Thank you.
Good morning. As the governor said, he has definitely been declared this war on rural counties. He's been able to be here. He has showed us. We have seen much, much more of your cabinet, not just employees of the cabinet. I'm talking about cabinet secretaries. And from the bottom of my heart, in Dorchester County, for the citizens, I applaud you and I thank you for your concern and your commitment of your resources and your knowledge to help us, citizens of Maryland, grow. I will tell you this much. On the morning of that fire, when I rolled up here on one of the fire trucks, it looked bad. It looked really bad. But out of bad, something always good will come. Mr. Anderson, you and your staff diligently pursued a lot of hurdles you had clear. But you kept focused on your goal, which was to make sure that your veterans had a place to go, be it Sail Winds or now back to your home. Thank you and your veterans for their service, and thank you for coming back here.
Okay, and with that, actually, you've heard his name mentioned quite a few times today. He's the person who's led the bringing this organization back, kept things going while they were going through a devastating time. And with that, we're going to bring Tommy Anderson, Commander Tommy Anderson, to the stage.
I promise you I'll be brief. I'd like to thank everybody for coming, our elected officials, our friends and neighbors, our members of other posts, our state commander I see is in the audience. On behalf of the 900 veterans of Dorchester County that have joined this organization, we all want to thank everybody for their support, for their help. Amanda, with the governor's staff, helped us pull this thing off today. The outpouring of the community to help us survive this tragic event that took place. In addition, the city of Cambridge, as has been pointed out by the governor and the mayor, we felt like we were thrown a lifeline to stay in business and to keep our donations going out to the community. And there was a lot of hard work put in by city, county, and state officials to make this happen. Sure, Post 91 was at the forefront, but we had a lot of help. And thank you all for being here.
Okay, we are going to, in as orderly fashion as possible, move as many of you that want to be in the picture as possible. Not everybody has to go. There are some of you do have to go. So if you are a county or city, a local elected official, state representative, and you guys, we're going to be going to the back of the building on the water side to actually do an actual ribbon cutting and get some photos of this so we can get you guys out. So anybody in the room that wants to be in the picture, you're more than welcome.